Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Wesley and this is the beginning of my balcony gardening journey. So I like gardening, but I live in an apartment, don't have a garden, just a balcony. So this year I'm going to see how much food I can grow on my balcony and I want to take you along. And today we're going to get started with this big planter. It's 2 meters by half a meter and about 40 centimeters deep. But since I'm on a balcony, I'm a little bit scared of the weight. So today we're going to see how we can make it as light as possible and still grow as much plants as we want. I'm also going to plan which plants we will grow throughout the year, so I know when to start seeding them, when to swap them out, just the planning, where to grow what for the whole year. Already in autumn I started this pot of garlic. I took a piece of fresh garlic and put the cloves in this pot. Garlic has to go through a winter before it sprouts. So, well, it's March now, so as you can see, it's doing quite well. And we're probably going to do more of these separate projects throughout the year, but the focus will be this planter. I've also got some nice pieces of wood here, which might have something to do with mushrooms. If you're interested in any of that, be sure to hit subscribe and you will find out in future updates. Okay, so let's get going. Alright, so this is what we're dealing with. It's a wooden planter, just made out of some boards, and it has a weed barrier, and then also it has below that a plastic liner. You can see there's still some soil in there. Also, the bottom of this planter, it's not directly on the ground, but the feet are completely surround the bottom. So the bottom is already rotting a little bit. I got this planter secondhand. So I want to drill some holes in the bottom so that water can flow out by itself and it doesn't sit at the bottom of the planter rotting the wood. So let's start by taking out the soil that is still in here. So I've gotten most of the soil out now. On both sides. I want this liner to let out water, but I don't want the boards on the bottom to get wet because they will rot. So what I'll do is I'll take a screwdriver and I'll poke some holes. Now the reason we want water to be able to drain through is to reduce the weight. So if we don't hold on to as much water, the weight will be a lot smaller. The holes are poked. So now we move on to our next water management job. Like I said, the feet of this planter go all the way around. And as you can see, the wood is already rotten a bit. So I want to drill holes in the side so that water can drain out without keeping the wood wet. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this hole drill, then drill holes, and then knock out the bottom. So holes drilled, just cleaning them up a bit with a file. Alright, so I'm done drilling the holes. It's not the cleanest job ever, but hopefully that will keep too much water from pooling at the bottom. The planter is in its place now. So now we're going to work on the soil. Now, as I said, I want to try to reduce the weight of the planter as much as possible. So what we're going to do is between the weed barrier and the lining, we're going to put leca. So the leca is going to kind of serve as a false bottom, but also as a drainage layer, because this will be lighter than just packed wet soil. So we're going to put that on top of the liner, but below the weed barrier, basically to raise the weed barrier, and then any excess water can go through the weed barrier, through the leca, and out the bottom of the planter. Now we also want to reduce the weight of the soil itself. I have some bags of old soil here that was in the planter from the previous owner. But this, when it's completely wet, is probably going to be very heavy. So to reduce the weight of the soil, we're going to mix in some perlite. So perlite is some volcanic rock, and it's very light. And also doesn't really hold on to water that much. So this will just make the soil a bit lighter, and it will also make water drain through it quicker. So the soil itself doesn't hold onto as much water. Because water is our enemy because it's very heavy. It does mean that we're probably going to have to water the planter more often, but that's an inconvenience I'm willing to take over safety. We're also going to mix in some bark, because that's also going to allow water to drain through more quicker, and it's going to probably be a bit lighter than the soil. However, we don't really want that to be in the way of seedlings and small plants, so we're only going to mix that through the bottom few centimeters of soil. So what I'm going to do now is I have some water there, I'm going to put that on top of the liner, just so I can hopefully have some weight on it. Okay, so what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get the holes in the liner to line up with the holes in the bottom of the planter before I put the leca on, so they kind of stay in place. I guess this also serves as a nice test to see if water drains from the bottom of the planter properly, and it seems to work fine. Now it's time to put the leca on. Okay, so the leca is in. I can still divide it a little bit better. So this was 80 liters of leca. The surface area of the planter is 1 meter, so that means that this should be about 8 centimeters of leca. With the planter being about 37 centimeters, that leaves us with 30 centimeters to spare. So about 25 centimeters of soil, and then let's say 5 centimeters of space. This is what it looks like below the planter. Nice, ready for soil. So like I said, for about the bottom half of the soil, we want to mix in the bark, but we don't want to do it for the top half, to give the roots a little bit more space and also give seeds some more space to push through. So let's put our ingredients in and let's mix. Now these bags of soil already include some stragglers. Hey, an onion. I don't really know what I'm going to do with those. I might try to pick them out and plant them properly. We'll see. Now I'm just sifting through the soil, taking out whatever is growing in them. From being in my vegetable garden mindset, I assumed they were onions, but they might actually just be flower bulbs, seeing as at least one of them actually has a flower. Alright, so I'm going to mix in the bark. And also already half of my perlite. So I've got, oh, and this stuff is quite dusty, so don't be sure not to breathe in the dust. So I have 24 liters of perlite, 40 liters of bark, and some amount of soil, I don't actually know. I'm just going to mix this in with the first layer of soil, and we'll reserve the last of the perlite for the top layer of soil. Now to mixing. So I'm just going to do this until it's evenly mixed, and I'll also add in some more soil. The next bag of soil also gives some more insight into what the bulbs are. Looks like they're flower bulbs. Alright, so that's our barky layer of soil. Now it's time for the layer where we just add perlite. So I'm just taking out these as best as I can. And I might replant them, I might not. Alright, planter done. Now it's time to go into the planting phase and see what we are actually going to plant and grow in this plant. And this is everything that came out of the bags of soil. I planted some of the bulbs that looked most healthy and undamaged back into the planter, and we'll see what I do. I planted them on this side because, as you will see in the planning we'll do in a bit, this is the side of the planter I've leased plants with. And you know, we'll see what I do. If they don't do anything interesting, we can also always take them out. Last thing, because we're reusing potting soil, it might be a bit depleted of nutrients. So I'm going to add in some nutrients. Alright, now the only thing left to do for today is watering. I'm going to water the whole planter just so the soil takes up a bit of water and it doesn't get blown away by the wind. Now, if we have our planter unfortunately, the north is over here. So this side faces the northwest, and this side faces the northeast. Of course, the balcony is more like this. So yeah. This is the outside, this is the outside, and here we have the building. So yeah, our planter will not get a lot of sun. So we're not gonna grow any tomatoes or cucumbers or things like that, because they require a lot of direct sun, which we simply do not have. What can we grow? We can grow a lot of leafy greens, maybe some radishes, things like that, some herbs. Now, we're in the Netherlands, I'm on the 4th floor. We sometimes get a lot of wind. So we're not gonna plant anything on the side which can't really deal with the wind. So because of that, we're going to divide our planter into 3 zones. In zone 1, we're going to plant things that can handle the wind. And in zone 3, we're going to plant things that really can't handle the wind. Now, again, at the moment, our balcony doesn't really get any sun. So it also can get quite cold still. So if we're going to plant seeds directly there now, they're probably gonna take a long time to sprout. So we're also going to have an inside mini greenhouse to germinate some things. Now let's see what plants we are going to grow. So if we draw our planter a bit bigger. Now in zone 1, directly at the corner, we're mostly going to grow rocket and radish. In zone 2, we're mostly going to grow lettuces, spinach, bush beans. And in zone 3, we're going to grow bok choy, Swiss chard, kohlrabi. More along the edges, we're going to grow parsley, cilantro, and some chives, as well as some nasturtium all the way across, and spring onions can go anywhere. And then in the separate pots on our balcony, as I said, we're going to try to grow some cherry tomatoes and some chili and maybe some rosemary. Doesn't seem too much, but of course the planter isn't actually this wide, it's a lot smaller, and the lines will not be as discreet. Now, when we're going to seed what is something we'll deal with next time, and for that, we'll just have to wait until the next episode. Alright, so that was it for today. We got quite a bit done. We got a planter ready, and we made a little planning of what we're going to grow in it. We also planted some mystery bulbs. I guess we'll find out what they are. If you want to follow along and see what I'm going to do with this piece of wood next time, hint, it has to do something with mushrooms, be sure to hit subscribe. After that, we're probably going to actually start planting our seeds in our little mini greenhouse indoors. So if you want to see that, also make sure to follow along. That was it for today, and I guess I'll see you next time.